It's the TruthPop Podcast. It's Jake here, and I have the pleasure of speaking to Theo McManigal. He's the Catholic Church Outreach Specialist for Covenant Eyes, all with the mission of helping us reclaim purity. There's practical logistical steps that you can take if you're struggling with pornography or impurity, maybe someone you know who's going through this and they want to get help. Covenant Eyes has practical resources that Theo can tell us about here on the Truth Pop Podcast. Theo, tell us, what is Covenant Eyes? How did it get started?
First of all, thank you, Jake, my friend, for having me on. Covenant Eyes is essentially an online service whose mission is to help people stop using pornography or never start. Covenant Eyes started in the year 2000 by a wonderful man named Ron DeHaas, who basically he wanted a way to protect his own children from this issue of pornography, and so he consulted with an IT guy in his church to help create this accountability system, and then he realized like, oh, I could make a product out of this. And 25 years later, it has been a very successful product. So Covenant Eyes, through the power of our screen accountability, is leads the way in internet accountability. And so ultimately, what we offer to help people who are either struggling with this issue of pornography or want to never start is two things: filtering, of course, but accountability. And the way it works is so if I am struggling with the use of pornography, and Jake, I want you to be my accountability partner, and you say yes, that means that you will have access to the reports generated by Covenant Eyes. So Covenant Eyes will monitor the internet activity on all of my devices: laptop, phone, tablet. It doesn't matter if it's Apple or if it's Android or any kind of phone. All of my devices, I want to install Covenant Eyes, and then Covenant Eyes screen accountability will take regular screenshots, not in an invasive way. Like if you take it on your phone and you see the flash or whatever, it'll just be taking screenshots in the background. And if it detects anything questionable, it will let the accountability partner know very quickly that hey, that the user is going down the wrong road, and then the accountability partner can reach out and have a conversation. Also, the accountability partner and the user can have an agreement that you can see the activity get an email every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is. So it's a great way to essentially know that online your accountability partner knows what you're doing, and if you are and if you give in to temptation, they'll see, and now you have conversation you can have. Pornography is a sin, but it's a particular kind of sin that leads to a lot of shame and a lot of secrecy, and yet that shame and that secrecy lead to further acting out. And so getting accountability, finding a way to shine the light on what you're doing, is an important first step to breaking free.
What has been the success rate like for people who use this program?
Well, Covenant Eyes has been able to, unfortunately, I don't have it right in front of me here, walk with over 1 million people, and helping them break free.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a lot of people, and we have, a couple hundred, sometimes 300 people signing up, on average, almost daily. I mean, obviously that fluctuates on time, season, time of the year, and all of that. But I mean, there's a lot of people who are aware of our product,
Mm-hmm.
and are using it. Of course, you have to come in. It is a tool, right? It's one of many tools, and there are ways that even if you sign up, if you're internally resistant to the process, you can still find a way to commit sin, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But the word's gotten out there, and so we would like to believe that the correlation of the amount of people signing up is leading to success. And we do have some data that shows that the longer you're a member, the reduced frequency
Mm-hmm.
is that you're having reports show that you're seeking out explicit content. The longer you go, the cleaner the reports happen to be. I actually
Yeah.
happened to see some stats on that the other day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so far we continue to do well, and lots of people in both the Catholic and Protestant worlds recognize us as leader of accountability.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think unfortunately, even among the Christian community, I would think the statistics for online pornography addiction is probably it mirrors that of the culture, right? So we would like to think that we're insulated as Christians, as Catholics, that we don't have this problem, but original sin, and we fall into lust. And I think that one of the difficulties is that we live in this culture right now that just penetrates us with constant temptation. It's the entertainment that we consume. Can you speak into that? Especially as we're getting into the Lenten season now, what kind of choices does someone need to make if they're struggling with pornography? How do they really need to think their entertainment choices right now? Maybe the music they're listening to or the TV shows that they're watching.
One of the things I find myself thinking about a lot is that there has to be in your life a healthy sense of distrust due
Hmm.
to the reality of original sin.
Hmm.
What I mean is we have to have full trust in God, but we have to have a healthy distrust of ourselves.
Hmm.
And I would say even if you're a parent of your kids and, you know, of the people in your life, and people don't necessarily like to hear that, but what all that is an acknowledgement that you're a sinner
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
an acknowledgement that I'm a sinner and that I'm capable of falling into temptation.
Hmm.
And so if I know I'm struggling, then I have to know that there are things that can trigger me even before I decide, or
Hmm.
that will ultimately lead me to
Hmm.
decide to give in to the temptation. So, you definitely want to, look at, and even I do this, Jake. I look at before watching movies. I look at parenting guides.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not only because I want to protect myself, even though I've been sober for several years now, but I also, pornography isn't, if you look at the Catechism's definition of pornography, actually, and it just says that, making the display of sexual acts, revealing them to third parties. It doesn't necessarily say that nudity is necessarily included, although that's where it's obvious, right?
Hmm.
But there are a lot of movies that
Hmm.
contain
Hmm.
pornographic scenes, even if they're not considered pornographic movies.
Right.
So you really want to be very vigilant about that kind of thing. The other thing, though, is uh, it's important to go beyond merely the structures and the guardrails that you have in place. You got to have those, but
Hmm.
ultimately, a wise priest has said on multiple occasions, the Catholic faith is about a way of seeing. Or C.S. Lewis said Christianity is like the sun. It's by it that I see everything else. So what do I mean by that? It's all around us.
Hmm.
We walk through the mall and there's not pornographic images, but I definitely think the pornified culture has
Hmm.
influenced the choice of the kind of images that are being put everywhere on these
Yeah.
clothes stores in order to try to get you to go in the store and buy the product. So eventually, what you need to do is you need to learn to transform the way it is that you see. I need to transform the way that I see so that when I see a person, man, woman, I see God's creation. I
Hmm.
see somebody made in God's image and likeness,
Hmm.
and that is a person to be loved and never a thing to be used. And so, even when, a billboard, a sign at the mall, an inadvertent ad on YouTube or something that I didn't mean to see, or in a movie that I didn't, mean to come, something I didn't mean to come across, eventually, you can look away, but at the same time, that can lead you further away from even the pull toward acting out toward pornography or masturbation because you know that these are human beings made in God's image and likeness, and you're commanded to love them and not use them.
Hmm.
And so, if we can see properly the way God commanded us to see, then we'll act the way God commanded us to act.
Hmm.
And, this all takes time, but through guardrails and through a process of being interiorly transformed and
Hmm.
transforming our vision, we can overcome the things that the culture kind of throws at us
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
no longer, even if we do see something we're trying not to see, we're seeing a person. We're seeing a
Yeah.
person in God's image and likeness. And, if the more we believe that, the less inclined we'll be to use them.
Well, yeah, it really speaks to what repentance is. It's a metanoia. It's a reshaping of the mind, right? A turning back.
Mm,
I remember, back in college, watching shows like How I Met Your Mother or things that we tell ourselves are innocent, right? But then I noticed the jokes that I was making really didn't reflect a Christian worldview. And then I could say the same thing about music, listening to a lot of top 40 songs. And there's statistics that show that at least more than probably 75% of what's current right now has something to do with an inappropriate view of God's plan for sexuality, right? So we're seeing more and more that our cultural agenda is at odds with God's plan for marriage and sexuality. And so I think that can be a little daunting for parents or just young Catholics in general who want to help the younger generation to have a different example. So, how can we start them young? How can we help children to understand how to really live out their sexuality for God?
Well, that is a great question. One of the things I would add, I think it's daunting for all of us,
Hmm.
and including for many of our priests as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not that they're very committed, but it's just daunting, right? It can be daunting to preach about publicly. Yeah, one of the things I try to do in my role is to get churches and dioceses to participate in the Safe Haven Sunday program agree
Hmm.
to preach about this one Sunday a year and hand out Covenant Eyes resources. And those Covenant Eyes resources, by the way, many of them are geared toward parents helping their children.
Hmm.
But in the church, we all have to work together. Church
Hmm.
leaders, the ordained and lay, and then parents to yes, start them young. The most important thing, and we have a lot of resources, especially little parenting booklets, many of which are all of which are free online, that kind of help with this. But there's some important things. Number one, good marriage between father and mother. And, if you're saying like, let's a son from his youngest days,
Hmm.
seeing how his dad, treats his mom and
Hmm.
treats women in general,
Hmm.
being raised in the faith, all very important. It's also very important to, actually have these conversations with your children
Hmm.
from the youngest age that is appropriate.
Hmm.
There's even books out there like, good pictures, bad pictures that
Hmm.
can help facilitate those conversations.
Hmm.
But it is important that parents establish themselves for their kids as people who their kids can talk to. That parents don't be naive and
Hmm.
realize that pornography. I mean, we just talked about the culture. We just talked about the mall.
Hmm.
Pornography is something. It's a force within itself, and it's out
Hmm.
to get. It's out to get
Hmm.
us. It's out to
Hmm.
get young people, minors.
Hmm.
So, you have to both have conversations about these. You have to, you know, establish guardrails like Covenant Eyes on your devices, and I would say you need to do it before it becomes a problem. So
Hmm.
that way you can teach kids that accountability is a lifestyle and
Hmm.
not merely a response to, oh, okay, well,
Hmm.
Johnny came across this, now we have to do this.
Hmm.
Starting from the beginning before
Hmm.
there's a problem. That way they can learn because parents are supposed to teach their kids accountability anyways in all
Hmm.
areas of life. So the internet is just one of them,
Hmm.
albeit a growing one of them, but
Hmm.
it is one of them. And then, you got to have conversations in your household that bring God into the conversation. One
Hmm.
of the tips given in one of our parenting books is that when your child does something wrong, um, you don't just need to make it about the fact that they have disappointed you
Hmm.
necessarily. Include God in that, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, I don't have the exact text in front of me, and I know that can sound like, oh, you've sinned, but
Hmm.
include the need to be right with God when
Yeah.
forming your children's moral character. So, if you just have a home where you're willing to, the home, the domestic church, and the church at large are kind of in the same boat on this.
Hmm.
Covenant Eyes has resources for you. Use them. There's confession in the church. Great. And
Hmm.
this is being pornography is being confessed all the time. It's the number one most confessed sin, some
Hmm.
say. Great. But you also, the church leaders and parents have to have homes, churches where this is actively spoken about and when people come forward to say, I'm struggling, they're received with compassion.
Hmm.
And okay, thank you for coming forward. We'll talk through this with you. We'll help you.
Hmm.
And then certainly I mentioned confession. That's a very important part of it.
Yeah.
So knowing that, especially for kids, knowing that their parents go to confession, seeing that
Hmm.
them going to confession as soon as, they go in second grade or whenever to make
Hmm.
their first communion. One thing I would add is that I think for the struggler or the addict, you need more than confession, because
Hmm.
confession at some point could become part of the cycle of
Sure.
addiction that you do. That after you fall, you feel the shame, you go to confession. Oh, I feel a little
Hmm.
bit better about myself. I'm not reducing confession to that. That still doesn't make
Hmm.
it bad. It
Hmm.
just may not be, I mean, how many of us have confessed the same sins over and over and over again, right?
Right,
If we want
right.
to get serious about this, we need more. So, but as far as starting them young goes, I think, I mean, man, if you have a good father and a good mother, that's a big deal. That's a
Hmm.
big deal. And so for us who, for those of us who are parents, and for those of us who are in a position to be influential to young people, man, we got to see that as a calling
Hmm.
and do our best at it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think confession is foundational for getting right with God, but to avail ourselves of any grace possible. So just yeah, like sitting in front of adoration in the
Hmm.
Eucharist and allowing Jesus to heal us and praying the rosary, right? So looking to Mary and her purity,
Hmm.
embracing that she can teach us through the rosary and the mysteries. There's so many options for us to receive grace in the Catholic Church. And of course, the logistical step of getting Covenant Eyes and having that accountability partner. How can people reach out to Covenant Eyes and get started if they know they need help right now?
Covenanteyes.com. Once you get to the website, I'll tell you the website is very thorough.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of really good free content on there. We got a blog, we have a podcast, we have lots of free ebooks
Mm-hmm.
for people in different categories. So if you're someone who is accountability partner for somebody else, there's a book for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you are the spouse of somebody who is using pornography and you feel betrayed, we have some books for that. If you are a user, we have books for that. If you're a parent, we have books for that.
Mm-hmm.
We have things for church leaders. We have all kinds of stuff. So first of all, go to our website and take advantage of our free content. If you sign up for a Victory account, that typically goes hand in hand with a Covenant Eyes account, but it could also be free. There's like 40 different courses that you can take to educate yourself and help you understand yourself, the issue of pornography, and all of that more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So you use all these free things. But once you go to Covenant Eyes and you're ready, you click that Get Started button and you're ready to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
It will take you through a process, and everything is very, very self-explanatory. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you sign up, if you have any issues with the software, our member care team is excellent. So call. The number is right there. Call or chat or email. There, we have a wonderful, wonderful team at Covenant Eyes, and everyone plays an important role and is there to help.
CovenantEyes.com. And Theo, I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's important. And speaking back to what you said earlier, I think is really important that there's that sense of shame or secrecy that I'm a horrible person. So it's a matter of separating the sin from the personal identity. And I think maybe someone needs to hear that right now, that if they're in the thick of pornography use right now, that God still made them good, that their identity is still in being a son or daughter of God, and that the sin does not define them, and that there is help and hope. And Covenant Eye is here to bring that hope to you if you're struggling right now. So, Theo, keep up the great work, and thank you so much again for the time here on the Truth Pop Podcast.
Jake, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be connected with you and to be interviewed by you and on this show. You and Kathy keep up the great work with the show, but it's great to be on.